Never in a million years would the Founding Fathers think we'd be having the conversations about federally funded post-birth abortions, murder, or whether we should have open borders, or whether or not you have to ask someone their gender pronouns, or whether we should have these safe spaces on a college campus, and basically whether or not we should turn into a completely different country. Meanwhile, constitutional conservatives and libertarians are fighting to preserve our liberties and founding principles. But let's go all the way back to 1973, shall we? When the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. In 1987, Dr. Ronald Baer published the book Homosexuality and American Psychiatry: The Politics of Diagnosis. And the book chronicles the events that changed psychiatry forever. On page 150, Dr. Baer writes, quote, "It was argued that the politics of the APA were such in the early 1970s that any major departure by the leadership from a conservative course would be certain to arouse significant opposition. Liberal psychiatrists committed to social activism had recently mounted a successful challenge to the association's old guard, and those who were threatened by the orientation of the new leadership could be counted upon to react almost viscerally in opposition. For them, the decision on homosexuality was not an issue that could be considered on its merits, but represented a consolidation of the power of liberal, younger psychiatrists who are redirecting the energies of American psychiatry." Now, this is a long book. I'm just going to give you a quote from a published summary. "The effort to remove homosexuality as a mental disorder from the DSM was the result of power politics, threats, and intimidation, not scientific discoveries." So here we see science was replaced by politics. But this gave way to a whole host of events that led to where we are today. It is a scientific fact that gender is biological, that our genders in our chromosomes. As humans, we're either XX and thus female, or XY and thus male. But now there's a powerful movement that wants to deconstruct the truth about gender and replace it with a new false concept that gender is a social construct, meaning that society, not biology, makes us men and women. This movement also demands that the power of the state be leveraged against anyone who refuses to bend. Again, truth compromised and replaced. Let's take another step. Quite literally, in the state of California, it is now illegal to misgender or use a different gender pronoun than a person identifies with. Don't believe me? California Code 1439.5, Section B, gender identity, means a person's identity based on the individual's stated gender identity without regard to whether the self-identified gender accords with the individual's physical appearance, surgical history, genitalia, legal sex, sex assigned at birth, or name and sex. Except as provided in subdivision B, it shall be unlawful for a long-term care facility or facility staff to take any of the following actions wholly or partially on the basis of a person's actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or human immunodeficiency virus, HIV status. And finally, willfully and repeatedly fail to use a resident's preferred name or pronoun after being clearly informed of the preferred name or pronouns. So yes, there are in these circumstances potential legal penalties if we do not go along with this deconstruction of an objective truth. Even though this might seem narrow, you might be saying, well, this is California, just the healthcare workers. It's still a precedent that's being set by the government. Now, all of a sudden, there are a million of these stories out there, but let me reference one recent one in Virginia. Headline CNN: "Firing Virginia teacher who misgendered student was the right call." Quote, "A Virginia high school teacher is claiming he was fired for not using a student's preferred gender pronoun." But that's not entirely correct. Rather, West Point High School French teacher Peter Vlaming was technically fired for insubordination after he did not comply with his supervisor's multiple requests to call his student by the appropriate gender pronouns. The teacher wasn't fired simply because of a pronoun, but rather because he was behaving in violation of school policy, judicial precedent, and the state's Department of Education Code of Ethics. So, that's a step even further, codifying the new construct that has replaced the truth. The power to force change against traditions, institutions, and the truth itself is a grand power, and that fuels these movements. Finally, we have the James Younger case, and this is tragic if you haven't heard of it. A 7-year-old boy was recently the subject of a courtroom battle as his mother wants him to transition into a girl, but his dad decided to fight it. This is James Younger when he was just 3 years old.
You're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
Who told you you were a girl?
Mommy.
When did she tell you you were a girl?
Because I love girls.
Oh, I see. So mommy told you you were a girl?
Uh-huh.
Does mommy do anything else like with a girl with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Like dresses.
What does she do?
She do put them on me.
She puts dresses on you? Oh, wow.
Well, eventually the court came to its senses and the judge ruled that the father would have a say in his son's transition. But these types of cases, they aren't going anywhere, not anytime soon. And if we don't get our act together, things are going to get worse. As the Daily Caller puts it, quote, political action is needed to protect kids like James Younger, unquote. So there you have the evolution of how gender was deconstructed by first removing science and truth. And it was all downhill from there. By the way, if you don't accept all of this, you're a bigot. So here's the argument. The far left and its supporting institutions of the media and academia are not at all interested in making people more free or respecting the rights of the individual. It's quite the opposite. Progressives claim to want to break down walls on issues like gender, the border, and inequality. But at the same time, what they really want to do is build newer, higher ones. See, embedded in what's advertised as a movement towards equality is a deeper, more sinister type of conformity. And that is a submission to the state, more specifically, a state controlled by a single left-wing party. Now, I know it's a long arc that must bend around our history as a republic, but the first step is to eliminate truth. Next, create new powers for government through social movements. Then finally, the clamp down of the state. Single payer, government-run schools, the Green New Deal. So it's the road to socialism. Now, this is unique to the United States because we were born from liberty and not control. So yes, I can draw a line from the breakdown of gender to massive government powers like single-payer health care.